Hello everyone, this is Jed Shlackman. I'm a holistic counselor and energy healer. For this particular video, I'll be speaking about a combination of energetic and health topics. So mind, body, spirit, holistic well-being, and the specific subject here has to do with parasites, that I'm going to relate that to some more metaphysical concepts. So I'll be speaking about the sun and the moon and physical and energetic parasites and vampires. It's an interesting combination of themes that kind of all fit together. So to preface this, I'll mention that this is for educational purposes. So the video is not meant to substitute for medical care or seeing a qualified healthcare practitioner for any diagnosis or treatment needs you may have. And now to go into this subject, first I'm going to speak about the sun and the moon and kind of the literal and symbolic significance of each of those. The sun, of course, is what brings light and life to the planet, to our physical reality here. And in spiritual and metaphysical traditions, the sun is often used as a symbol representing light or enlightenment, but also representing the conscious mind and the masculine aspect of self. So you can think of the sun there as the power of life and also the conscious mind and the masculine side of your being. While the moon, that celestial body, of course it comes out at night and it's receiving the reflection of the sun. So it's not actually putting out its own light. It's taking the light from the sun to enable itself to shine. And you could think of that kind of like what parasites and vampires do. They're taking energy from some other being to use that energy, that sustenance, for themselves. Now, symbolically, the moon is usually connected with the subconscious or unconscious and with the feminine aspect of one's being. So you have the sun as the masculine, the moon as the feminine, and both together help create our life experience. So we in a sense need to have the light and the dark for this play or game of life to unfold. So it's not that one is good and the other is bad. They're both there to play their role. But it's helpful to understand those roles and how they relate to our life experience. So we can now start to shift to connect this to the ideas of parasites and vampires, which, as I mentioned, are beings that take their sustenance from another being, from a host being that provides the energy or the sustenance for that entity to survive. In our physical body, we have all different kinds of small organisms, microbes or microorganisms. We can have tiny parasitic organisms in us, and you could also have larger parasitic organisms. Some of you have seen pictures or images of worms that can grow very large and long that are parasitic, both in human beings and in other animals. So those are life forms that take up their residence in one's body, and usually they're receiving their nutrients through you as the host. as a result of that, a variety of health challenges could start to develop. In one context, you could start to become depleted in different nutrients in your body because you have these other organisms that are consuming those, in a way competing for that nutrition with you, with the host. But you could also have a weakening of your immune system in general, and that weakening can come from just the collection of different stresses that are happening to you. So parasites could be one of many different stresses that you're encountering. You could have emotional stresses, you could have bacteria and viruses that are starting to proliferate or overgrow in your body. You could have mold, you could have environmental toxins, things in the air, the water, etc. So as those things all start to build up, it can reach a tipping point where your body can't really keep up anymore, and your body will just try to do the best it can in terms of immune function, eliminating whatever seems to be the priority, but then some other things will not be dealt with, and those could start to build up and create different issues in your body. So parasites are one of a variety of external organisms or threats that can start to impact you. But it's helpful to understand how they function, the fact that they're using you as a host to feed. So whatever you're consuming in your body, whatever food you're intaking, in some way you're also feeding those parasitic beings that are taking up residence in you. If we think about the legendary idea of a vampire, something that drinks blood, you can see that it's using the blood of another being and all the nourishment that's in that blood for its sustenance. So there are people who actually do drink blood, and from their point of view it's in some way nourishing them, and it can also be something that's addictive. That's a whole other topic. But just to be aware that there are literal vampires, even though most people think of it in terms of a legendary monster type creature, a Dracula being from a movie or TV show. Those things are based on actual real life, where there have been people for more than one reason who are consuming blood from either other human beings or the blood of animals. And that's similar to the idea of parasites, because you have something that's getting its sustenance from a host or another being. Now, an interesting thing about the vampire stories and legends is that you'll see they show the vampire is sleeping all day, and then it comes out at night, and that's when it's seeking out its food or looking to get blood from somewhere. So if we think back to the sun and the moon, you have the sun in the daylight and the moonlight when it's actually dark essentially, and the moon is just reflecting sunlight. So in the legends they have the vampires operating at night and not being able to withstand the daylight. So there's the idea that the sunlight is actually harmful to a vampire, and you could also consider that sunlight is going to be harmful or a deterrent against parasites in your body. So getting out during the day and exposing yourself to the UV, the sunlight, the infrared light, all those frequencies that actually supports your immune system. It gives you energy, and it's not an energy that the parasites in you are able to use efficiently or adequately. It's not a healthy energy for them. So they tend to be more dormant during the day and more active at night, in particular with the moonlight. So people that do parasite cleanses are often timing it according to the moon cycle, so that when the moon is more full and the parasites have become more activated in the body, they'll hit them with the parasite protocol to knock out those parasites to help clear them from their body. So it's useful to think of that in terms of the sun and the moon and how they actually affect what's going on in our physical body on these microorganisms or parasitic organisms that might be proliferating within your body, and to use that understanding as you apply whatever protocol you're using to treat those conditions. You also might notice that your nervous system and your sleep cycles and things like that are being affected by these different microorganisms or parasitic organisms that are affecting you. So if you're struggling to sleep, if you have a lot of inflammation in your body, especially in your nervous system, it could be that you have different viruses, bacteria, parasites, etc., that are aggravating your nervous system and keeping you from resting and relaxing and recovering. So if you find ways to get sleep at night, which is kind of the normal mammalian sleep cycle for most animals, there are a few exceptions such as bats, but for human beings, like most other mammals, it's natural to be sleeping at night and more active during the day. So if something's upsetting that, it could be a sign that something is happening in your body that's throwing your nervous system out of its usual cycle. And you can also consider what's happening in your consciousness. We talked before about the sun representing the conscious mind, the self that we project into the outer world, into the society around us, and the moon as the unconscious, the subconscious aspects of our being, the things that we might not often be aware of or paying much attention to about ourselves. So if you're dealing with some of those health issues, it could be you have a lot of unconscious material that's built up that is creating this shadow energy within you that's in some way attracting those disease organisms, whether it's viruses or bacteria or parasites or some other organism that's creating illness. If you're able to release and process your subconscious psychological material and clear that out, that often helps refresh your energy and give you the power physically to clear out whatever parasites or infections you might be dealing with. So as you're doing any physical protocols, if you're taking medications to neutralize microbes, whether it's antibiotics, antiviral, antiparasitic, that's addressing the physical level, but it's also important to address the energetic, the psychological and spiritual levels. In some sense, that's kind of the root of many of those issues. If your energy is being drained on a psychological or spiritual level, then less energy is there to sustain and nurture your physical body, and then physically you become vulnerable to the physical parasites the vampire type entities that exist on a physical level. But it might have started out with you having energy vampires in your life, too many people around you draining your energy, manipulating you, exploiting you, taking advantage of you, and so on. So if you're giving away all your energy on that level, there isn't enough to support your physical health. If you think of who we are as human beings, we're physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual beings. We kind of have all those layers to our energy. You could look at those as energy bodies. Many healers or metaphysical teachers talk about the energy bodies. And if your energy bodies beyond the physical are getting drained and depleted, it's going to have a spillover effect at some point. Your physical body won't be getting all the energy it needs for it to maintain its integrity, to keep those parasites or viruses or other things at bay. So be very conscious or mindful of your mental and emotional health, of how you're dealing with things that are affecting you energetically. And if you do that, you'll be less vulnerable to these infestations that occur on the physical level. I hope that that has given each of you some ideas or things to consider as you address any physical or psychological health concerns. Often one is reflecting the other. So if you have the physical infestations that are affecting your body, it may have an emotional and mental effect. You may have difficulty handling your emotions. You may be feeling more anxious, more angry, more depressed. So sometimes it starts out with things happening physically. Sometimes it's the other way around. Things are hitting you emotionally. You're going through stress and trauma, and then it starts to appear or manifest on the physical level, where you have illnesses start to suddenly appear that you didn't have before as a consequence of what's been triggered from that emotional or psychological level. So if you're looking for healing on any of these levels, be aware that you might have to address things on more than one level. If you have physical health issues, you can do the physical treatments to address them, but you might find better results or a more complete healing if you also address psychological and spiritual factors. And then looking at addressing the psychological issues, you can do therapies that work on the psychological level, and they may help, they might not. You might get more complete results if you also address the spiritual and metaphysical layer, and also address your physical health. So doing things with your diet, with clearing out parasites or pathogens, that part can also help you with your mental health. This is why I speak about using a holistic approach, because we are beings with multiple layers and levels to us. So if we work more as looking at ourselves as the whole of all those levels interconnected and functioning together, then we have more of an opportunity to foster our well-being. If we're only targeting one level, we're often missing a large percentage of what's relevant. Our physical body, in a sense, is just a fraction, a small percentage, let's say, of the totality of who we are. So if we're only working on that physical level, we're missing a big part of the picture or the puzzle. So with that said, I appreciate each of you for taking your time to listen, to watch, and explore this topic. For those that are interested in holistic health and wellness, I invite you to view more of my videos. You can also visit my website, phinsights.com. That's phinsights.com. You can find other resources there and also get more information about therapy and healing sessions that I share and group events that I facilitate. For now, I want to wish everyone a wonderful day. Namaste.